begins a program to help the needy by restoring used assistive devices. We are alerted to the dangers of oriental carpenter bee and where they nest. Welcome to DaAi Headlines. I'm Marilyn Shoda. Thank you for joining us. We begin today's program in Taiwan, where TMA members continue with their free clinics in New Taipei City's Pingxi. The most recent medical outreach was met with rain, but the team still went ahead with their plans as they knew the importance of such clinics. And in Indonesia's Jakarta, Tzu Chi is hosting a medical clinic for residents 45 and older. Tzu Chi is hosting a free clinic for the community of Kelurahan Pejagalan. This time, not only senior citizens, but also those who are 45 and older have received an invitation to the medical outreach. To hand out the invitation, those who know the community well have donned volunteers' vests to help. During this outing, the volunteers discover many young people who have fallen ill at home.
Ternyata ya ada yang mampu dan ada yang tidak. Jadi dia banyak yang stroke.
Many have high blood pressure, which is why we have so many stroke patients here. Some suffer from mild stroke, others more severe. We saw some earlier that could use a cane to get around or ones in wheelchairs. There are some who have been unable to move for years.
80-some-year-old Sarpan suffers from vision impairments, but she still insists on doing some housework, which worries her children.
I do the laundry, cook dinner, and some household chores. I don't like staying at home doing nothing.
Though the residents of Kelurahan Pejagalan live near the capital of Jakarta, they are still quite impoverished. Adding to their lack of knowledge, they often don't know the right way to take care of their health. Thankfully, Tzu Chi volunteers are here to give their bodies a checkup as well as educate them on some basic health education. In Taiwan, New Taipei City's Pingxi is also under the care of TMA members, no matter rain or shine.
You should eat less porridge and white rice. Don't eat too much white porridge as it quickly raises your blood sugar level.
In Pingxi, senior citizens account for 20% of the town's population. These elderly often have degenerative diseases, which on top of being not so agile, they often confine themselves at home out of habit.
Every Wednesday, we have an exercise program for senior citizens. It's okay you don't have much strength in your legs right now. After you go to a few of the classes there, you will gain strength in your legs.
This visually impaired senior citizen has a table full of medicine, which she often forgets to take. During the free clinic, other medical services are offered at the activity center, such as Chinese medicine consultation.
As they mostly live in the remote mountain region, it's harder for them to head to Taipei to see a doctor. During the free clinic, if we provide these residents with Chinese medicine consultation, it's very helpful to their ailments in the long run.
How to give items which are no longer useful another lease on life by giving it to someone else in need, of course. Taiwan's Tzu Chi Foundation's Department of Charity Mission Development has begun a new program to give second-hand assistive devices more use in the Hualien and Taitung area. Most second-hand items given are donated by the recycling station in the Greater Taipei area. After a thorough cleaning and testing, these well-loved items are given to those in need.
This cushion is dirty now, but in a moment it will look as good as new.
Scrubbing away the filth and dust, this nurse is giving the seat cushion a second lease on life. Tzu Chi Foundation's Department of Charity Mission Development began a second-hand assistive devices program in late March of this year to help care recipients in the Hualien and Taitung area.
We have items sent to us from the Greater Taipei area so that our care recipients in the Hualien and Taitung region can use these assistive devices, giving the items their greatest fulfillment.
Before the devices are given to care recipients, staff members test it to ensure it's working properly. As this particular electric scooter is being given to a care recipient in Hualien's Jiabing village.
He can't walk well and the sun was out that day. By the time he reached the senior citizens club, he was sweating profusely.
They also teach the recipient how to use the scooter, so he now has a safe and easy mode of transportation. After the care recipients no longer need the devices, it will be given to someone else in need, ensuring the cycle of love continues. Tzu Chi Batu Pahat Liaison Office in Johor, Malaysia, canvassed for donations for 3 days. In response to Tzu Chi's One Good Deed a Day campaign, they separated the event into 17 sessions and mobilized a total of 108 volunteers.
Saying a slogan along with a bow, these volunteers canvass for donations in public areas.
We spend the funds on charitable, medical, and educational missions. 11,000 people have been helped each month through charitable events. More than 500 dialysis patients have received medical assistance, and 39,000 people utilize free dialysis services. As for education, we have provided scholarships for more than 2,000 students.
Over the course of 3 days, these volunteers have taken turns raising funds as they all feel very happy. Residents can simply use their smartphone to scan the two-dimensional barcode on the stickers given by the volunteers to understand Tzu Chi's information and activities. Over the past 3 days, volunteers have been impressed by the residents' compassion and love.
Staying in Malaysia, Tzu Chi Kedah chapter recently invited Indian care recipients to celebrate the Deepavali festival at the Jingsi Hall. At the occasion, care recipients enjoyed the delicious food the volunteers prepared, as well as the performances. To reciprocate Tzu Chi volunteers' kindness, many care recipients also brought their filled coin banks back to donate.
Saravasvati is making the Indian pancakes for the festival. She was invited by Tzu Chi volunteers to make the delicacy. She makes slight changes to it, but it is still very tasty.
I add barley powder to the wheat in making the Indian pancake. It doesn't taste different from the traditional one, so I invented this taste, and everyone can make it and also eat it.
To celebrate the Deepavali, Tzu Chi Kedah chapter invited all the Indian care recipients to the Jingsi Hall. Many people have been looking forward to it.
I'm very happy to take the kids out for a walk. I hardly take them out because I always go home after work. I noticed the kids were quite happy today.
Everyone is like a family. Tzu Chi volunteers are like my father and mother. I want to thank Tzu Chi for helping me.
63-year-old Susila, a single mother, wants to thank Tzu Chi volunteers for their company for the past 16 years while she was at a low point of her life.
When she was feeling very uncomfortable, they gave her 220 ringgits every month. The amount was very helpful to her. Now her children are very successful, so she feels it was because of Tzu Chi's help, and she thanks Tzu Chi for it.
People also brought their coin banks to the Jingsi Hall because they too want to help those in need.
Tzu Chi has helped us a lot, so I'm very grateful to Tzu Chi, and I brought this coin bank to offer my help.
I just took a coin bank, so after I go home, I'll save my coins in there and bring it back next year.
Tzu Chi volunteers accompany the care recipients to enjoy the feast and also give them the presents. The celebration is full of giving and also gratitude, and it makes the festival more meaningful.
Trees can increase the stability of the mountain soil, but farming in rain can lead to forests and hillsides to erode and collapse. Should the collapse happen upstream of rivers, driftwood becomes a problem as it makes its way downstream. In recent years, the effects of global warming have led to more extreme weather, bringing about a greater rainfall and more driftwood problem. In our next report, we see the importance of rehabilitating these forests as part of the soil and water conservation movement.
Here is Kaohsiung's Lilgui Laonong Creek riverbed, where we can now see a great deal of driftwood. This means that the upper reaches of this woodland area has seen some damage. As we can see through our lens, that some 100 meters of hillside has collapsed.
If daily rainfall reaches between 300 to 400 millimeters of rain, the forest cannot handle this, and we will see some slopes collapse.
When earth and stones at the foot of these slopes are washed away, then the woodlands on top will slip downwards to fill in this vacancy, causing trees to be uprooted and leading to driftwood. This is Zhoufen Mountain. Driftwood in this downstream area indicates that there must be slopes collapsing and forest erosion as many trees collapse because of heavy rains, leading trees to be uprooted and turned into driftwood. This is the Ximen Reservoir's upstream catchment area, Taoyuan Fuxing District's Dahan Creek. Here we can see 6 hectares of woodland have collapsed. The soil and driftwood later entered the downstream Ximen Reservoir.
Slope collapse continues upstream, and because of the impact upon our reservoir, it continues to be quite severe.
In 2004, Typhoon Iri had a major impact on northern forests. 12 years after this disaster, Ximen Reservoir continues to experience 1,157 hectares of forest land, which collapsed in its catchment area. This exposed area has suffered extreme climate change, with the government utilizing different departments to undertake artificial plantings to restore the original forest. At the moment, only 7 hectares remain barren.
In woodland areas near the river, the Forestry Bureau planted trees to become a sort of buffer to prevent driftwood from going downstream. These are preliminary buffers which prevent some driftwood from immediately going into the river as soon as it rains.
This is Kaohsiung's Taoyuan District Mei Long Mountain Road. When Typhoon Morakot hit this area, some 25 hectares of hillside collapsed.
Seeds from nearby trees have drifted over and their roots have grown here. After many years, this slope is relatively stable.
Nature is the best way to see the mountain, but man-made destruction of the earth, along with the greenhouse effect, leads to extreme rainfall, has led to heavy typhoon rains that have not been seen in a century. When the forest has lost the effectiveness to protect soil, the environment becomes fragile and endangers residents living in the area. However, disaster prevention technology has also made great progress, allowing for greater prediction and control.
When the September 21st earthquake struck, there was 195 hectares of slope which moved. The Soil and Water Conservation Bureau decided to do some monitoring in this area, and we can see this coaxial cable is here for monitoring purposes. This copper wire has been inserted into the ground to a depth of 50 meters going into the substrata. If there is any changes, we can predict the ground displacement. When we experience heavy rains, groundwater levels will rise and affect the overall safety of the embankment. When groundwater levels rise to a certain height, we will inform relevant government units.
Not all driftwood has a negative impact on the environment. In our next episode, we will look at how driftwood can actually help the environment and nurture the ecology and the next generation and the natural cycle of life.
In Taiwan, a resident was stung by an oriental carpenter bee when she was using a bamboo broom to sweep the floor. Later, they found out the bee had nested inside the broom. Since this kind of bee is very active in autumn, people who do gardening and use bamboo brooms need to be very careful. Let's learn more about this type of bee.
When the patient was sweeping the ground with a bamboo broom, her left thumb was stunned. In less than 10 minutes, the thumb became swollen and the entire palm felt hot.
The bee faces outside, so when you hold the broom, it stings you. You won't discover it until you feel a stinging sensation.
The culprit is oriental carpenter bee, also known as bamboo bee. They are found on the ground or low altitude areas. They often nest at the end of bamboo combs. When people move the broom, they feel threatened and therefore will attack people.
There's a large number of them when it is about autumn because they are starting to make nests to spend the winter. Therefore, there's more chances of their coming out to find food. They're more active during this time period.
The oriental carpenter bee stun people flying out of this bamboo broom. How many of them are in the broom? Opening up the bamboo broom, there are 8 oriental carpenter bees. Oriental carpenter bees can be poisonous. Some people will have swelling reaction, but for those with allergies, the sting might be fatal.
If the patient experiences swelling, vomit, have diarrhea, or feel dizzy, they might be having allergic shock. Sometimes they might have difficulty in breathing.
People who do gardening or use bamboo brooms at school have to be cautious.
The school should keep the bamboo brooms in an enclosed area instead of leaving them outdoors.
We replace the old brooms regularly. After using it every day, we place them in the cabinets.
If one is stung by bees, apply ice packs and seek medical treatment immediately to have tetanus and anti-allergic vaccine shots. For most patients, the swelling goes away in 2 days.
In continuing our series of successful bone marrow stem cell pairing cases, today we meet third grader Chen Jiayen, who was diagnosed with chronic myelogenous leukemia when she was 22 months old. The doctor said the only way for her to survive is to receive a stem cell transplant. While Chen's family was in despair, the appearance of stem cell donor将二手辅具 gave her and her family some hope.
One can see everywhere in this house is her playground. Third grader Chen Jiayen is like royalty in this family, and she is also a big eater in her mother's mind.
She wanted to eat something at any time and anywhere. She never felt full, so I kept controlling her diet. However, I never thought that she suffered from an illness since she always had a good appetite. I thought it was because she ate a lot that she grew a big belly. I couldn't accept this fact because she's my first child. I've spent a lot of efforts and time accompanying her. Back then, she often had a bruise on her leg. We thought it was due to a bump, but it wasn't. Not until we brought her to see a doctor did we realize that she suffered from this illness. The doctor said undergoing a transplant is the only way she can survive.
Ever since Chen was diagnosed with this illness, the hospital has become their second home.
刚刚睡醒，他准备要看报的戏。
In the beginning, I cried every day. It wasn't until someday that I thought I cannot look down in front of my child, because when I feel sad, she may also shed tears secretly. She was so brave that she never cried when getting a shot, and she never refused to take the medicine.
We must use hot water to heat up anything she will use, such as scissors, bowls, and chopsticks.
Chen's illness also affects her family as they have to change their living habits, especially when it comes to cooking.
We cannot touch unboiled water before we eat fruit. We must wash it with cold water. After doing the same for this plate, we can put the vegetable here.
Each complicated step represents the senior's love for this child, and it's hoped that this love can be turned into a miracle.
In fact, I think it is a special cause because when a care group explained the process to me, it also aroused my memory. I also realized that the act can truly help a family.
將二手also has her own family, and her parents also allow this seed of hope to sprout. Her husband even joins the rank of the volunteers to promote stem cell donation.
This is a good thing to do, and we can also do it to save people's life. You may only have this opportunity in your whole life.
然后这是叶，对不对？橡，橡木的橡。
I realized how lucky we were since there was a person who was willing to help us. At that time, I pledged that if my child gets better, I'll also do this to help other less fortunate people.
After experiencing hardships, this young girl gradually regained health. When she turned a third grader, her mother also received an invitation to a miracle.
I remember the first sentence I asked her is to make sure whether I also received a successful match. After she said yes, I started to cry because I thought it was a very rare opportunity for me to save other people's life, since other people also saved my family. I also hope that I can save people's life in their time of need.
我们移植回来的时候拍的。
Even with this rare opportunity, Chen's mother, who has turned from a receiver into a giver, tries everything possible to spread this love to the needy.
Prader-Willi syndrome patients suffer from a genetic abnormality where in childhood they develop chronic overeating and obesity as well as some intellectual impairments. Last year, Tzu Chi volunteers in Kaohsiung held a camp for children with this condition to give their parents some time to rest. Another camp was held this year, and with the accumulated experience, this year's event offers more attractive activities for these children. Let's take a look. Those who have Prader-Willi syndrome needs lots of cardio. Thus, besides exercises, this camp also has games to increase their lung capacity. Due to a gene malfunction, these sufferers often feel hungry and eat too much, which leads to cavities if they don't brush their teeth. An oral health education course was held where fluoride was applied to their teeth. This is the second time a camp was held for the families of Prader-Willi syndrome children in Kaohsiung. This time there are 20-some campers, while staff numbered at 200-some Tzu Chi volunteers.
I only first met them last year, but it feels like we've been friends for a really long time.
Though looking forward to dining time, this child isn't rushing to open her own lunchbox, but to help the volunteer next to her first. Often society has misunderstood this minority group.
These children's reaction aren't that different from normal children, as their genetic disorder is not commonly known, so society doesn't understand their differences, which in the end hurts the parents even more.
I really hope his family can see the good side of him.
After spending time with these PWS children, the volunteers are emotional, as they only hope the children's good points could be brought to light more. They also hope the parents receive more support in society and more awareness of this disorder could be spread. Taiwan was recently showered in torrential rain, but the storm did not deter many of the volunteers heading to Hualien on a route-finding mission. In total, 651 volunteers in training and 297 camp staffers headed to Hualien to learn more about Tzu Chi and its various missions. At the end of the program, let's take a look together at some of the thoughtful gestures the staff did to assist the participants during this rainy event. That's all the time we have for today. Thank you for joining us. Goodbye.